This is the 8-day Rooted in Worthiness Activation, a sacred homecoming to whom you've always been, where you'll uncover the truth beneath the noise, reclaim your voice, and remember your worth. Yay, we made it to day 3 of the boundary session of our Rooted in Worthiness Activation. We're almost halfway through. Super excited. I'm really happy about today. Today is really, it's a turning point. Because we did some work in the awareness section, and we put some ideas together in the day 2 in our values. And today we take that and we cement it, and we create boundaries to protect it. This is where the action starts to come in. What truly matters to us is our values. And we went through that. Hopefully you did your homework and you went through everything, and you got a solid foundation of what your core values are and what you want to root yourself in, right? But here's the thing. Values on their own, they can't hold. We can create all the values that we want. We can list them, but they're just items on paper or in your mind or on your heart. But if you don't protect your values, they'll slip through your fingers. So that's where boundaries come in. Boundaries are the way we take our values from an idea to an action. And I'm saying it right up front and loud and clear here. Boundaries don't have to be hard. They don't have to be punishing and complicated. They aren't about shutting people out or building walls. They're about protecting what matters most. They're about saying, this is who I am, and this is how I stay aligned with myself. So today is about learning how to protect your values and boundaries. You already know what matters to you. So now let's talk about how you can honor that truth in your everyday life, with the choices that are sacred, simple, and clear. Sounds good? So hopefully you're all caught up on your homework, and I hope that everybody who's watching this has joined my community, and I'm visualizing it right now, that it's growing and it's super rewarding, and it's exactly what people need. So, because at the time of this recording, it's not even open yet. So, I'm really excited. Almost finished all these videos, and I'm going to start opening up the community next week before the end of summer. So I'm really excited for that. So let's get into it. Let's start with a story. I didn't grow up learning learning what boundaries were. At least not the healthy kind. What I learned was how to make people happy, how to make myself safe. I learned how to smile through discomfort. I learned how to overfunction, how to say yes when I didn't want to, and how to be everything to everybody except for myself. I didn't know that I mattered. When you grow up in a dysfunctional or trauma home, you learn that love might come at a cost. So, of course, you learn how to shapeshift, you scan every room, and you become who they need you to be. So you lose yourself. You become who they need you to be so you can avoid the next conflict or avoid the next uncomfortable situation or explosion. So for most of my life, I thought that's how it worked. I thought being a good person meant being available, being agreeable, being self-sacrificing. I didn't know that I was allowed to take up space. I didn't know that I was allowed to say, that doesn't work for me. I didn't know really that I even mattered. And over time, that way of living drained me. It wasn't just exhaustion from doing too much, it was the ache of being hurt. Again and again and again. I'm being hurt by people that I love, by the people that I did everything for, by the people that I invited into my space and into my home and into my life, the ones I poured my heart out to. And in return, I was left bruised, disappointed, shattered. Because here's the truth. When you carry a worthiness wound and you don't know how to protect yourself, you start to attract the people who will confirm that wound. You will attract the people who will confirm that wound. You draw in the ones who take, the ones who expect you to keep proving your value through what you give. That's what happens when you don't know your own worth. You magnetize relationships that feed off your overgiving. And little by little by little, it drains you until you can hardly recognize yourself. And after enough of those disappointments, after enough of those little heartaches and heartbreaks and something in me just hardened. I didn't make a conscious decision or a conscious choice. It was more like a self-protection on autopilot. I swung all the way to the other side. Instead of overgiving, I started to build walls. Thick, strong, heavy, steel, reinforced walls. And nobody was allowed in. Not in my house, not around my kids, not in my inner circle, definitely not into my heart. I tried to remain untouchable because to me that felt safe. To me that felt safe. But it was actually grief. It was grief dressed up as protection. Because walls and barriers come from fear. And boundaries come from love. Walls say, I'll never let that happen to me again. I'll never let anyone hurt me ever again. Boundaries say, I'll honor what I need and choose who feels safe. Walls block everything out. Walls block everything out. Joy, community. Yeah, There is safety in the walls, for sure. I lived behind them for many, many years. But what happens if you create boundaries? Boundaries make room for joy by clearing the space. And the truth is, and you know what, I'm making sure that I stay as raw as possible on these videos, because I don't want anybody to think like I'm creating this and I've got it all mastered and stuff. And, just flip the switch, because lots of people do say flip the switch, and it is a lot of times just flipping a switch. But then, it takes a little bit of mechanics to get to that switch to flip it, right? So, boundaries aren't easy to make. They are not easy to make. They're extremely uncomfortable, especially if you're not used to them. And let's say you're an empath and you can feel that other person is feeling, and there's like this uncomfortable moment. It's not easy. It took a lot of practice for me to create boundaries that were healthy and do it in a way that was comfortable for me. Some people can just be like, bang, this is my boundary. And they put it up and they, this is the line and all love. I had to find my own way of doing it. And that wasn't it. That wasn't it. So when you've spent years and years of overgiving, finding your worth and how much you do for others, your boundaries get very muddy. Your boundaries get muddy. They disappear. Even when I thought I was protecting myself and my children with those walls, I was still overgiving inside of them. I was still betraying myself. Still saying yes when my body was saying no. Because I hadn't yet learned what it truly means to choose myself. So how did it change? What happened? How did it change? It started with my values. It started with getting painfully honest about my patterns. My tendency to overcompensate, to earn love by meeting everyone else's needs first, to look outside of myself for worth. And when I got down to my values and I started to understand what my values were, it took a little while. I did a few exercises and stuff, but I think it took me a while to really, truly understand what I value. And I think that if you did this activation again in another year or so, you'll find that everything's a lot different in a year or so compared to what you're doing now. So I began with small, almost like experimental boundaries. It's like drawing a little line in the sand to test the water, to see how it felt to honor myself. And it was a very conscious act. It wasn't something that came naturally. So it was messy. I stumbled through it. Some I didn't keep. I'd set a boundary and then be like, the next day it was out the door, But it was all seeds. I was planting seeds. None of that is wasted time. Not anything that you do that is moving you into a forward version, a better version of yourself is a waste of time. This is all learning, planting seeds, sowing the seeds, getting into a rooted sense of self. Boundaries aren't just something that you flip on overnight. Like you wake up one morning and there you go, you got all your boundaries set, you're good, see ya. No, that's not how it goes. It's a practice. It's a muscle that you have to build. And every time you choose one, you strengthen your worth from the inside out. And that's what we want. We want inside out transformations. No more looking outside of yourself for your worth. It's inside out transformation. So I'm going to go back to talking about the situation that I've been speaking about throughout this whole series about the family member, the one that's connected to my mom, that tested me on so many other levels. And as you know, as I said, I've spent months performing, giving more than I had to give, bending myself to fit what she wanted because part of me still hoped to earn acceptance. And the moment I talked about the last video, when I realized that I needed to set my values, who am I? I am worthy. But I had to set the boundary. I was scared. I was like, it scared me to set a boundary there. And that's okay. I did it anyway. I set the boundary. And not with anger or blame or any of those negative feelings. It was just clarity. This doesn't feel good for me anymore. I need time. I need rest. And her reaction wasn't that loving. She stopped talking to me, stopped texting back, and she even blocked me on the phone. Did it cut? Yep. It did. But you know what? It's not my story. This is her story, her lessons, her worth, her walls. If I don't belong in her walls, then I don't belong there. Can't manipulate myself into her life. I can't manipulate myself. I can't force myself into somebody else's life. This is about her lens, her patterns, her pain. And here's what I discovered. Even though the reaction hurt, I was still at peace. I was still at peace. I chose myself. I honored my truth. I never felt anything less than love for her. I forgave her. I blessed her on her path. If there's space in her story for me one day, I'll be happy to be there. With boundaries. Because now I know what I need. And I will not leave myself behind to be accepted by someone else. I will not leave myself behind to be accepted by somebody else. Write that down. That's what boundaries are. They're not walls. They're not punishments. They're not ultimatums. They're not made in anger. They're sacred choices. They're agreements with yourself. Yesterday we talked about values, where you stand, what you stand for. But if you don't protect those values with boundaries, you'll end up betraying them. So let's look at it. Let's dig in a little bit. Let's say one of your values was rest. What would your boundary look like? I don't book 3 things back to back anymore. I make sure I take time for grounding or meditation. So if you value peace, then your boundary might be, your boundary would be, I'm not available for chaos. You value truth, then maybe it's, I don't pretend anymore just to avoid conflict. That's a big one. Boundaries are how we walk our talk. They're how we honor the truth of our values and action. And yes, boundaries can make some people uncomfortable. Especially the ones who benefit from your silence, the ones who benefited from you losing yourself. I mean, they're not going to like your boundaries, 100%. It's not going to make them happy. That's okay. You're not here to be palatable. You're here to be true. You choose who sits at your table. And it's not even a fact where you say this person isn't allowed, because as soon as you set those boundaries, the people who aren't within that value system and you set your boundaries, they won't want a seat at your table. It's not going to work for them. Your energies won't match anymore. So today, I want you to reflect on this. What are you ready to stop tolerating? What values are you ready to protect? What part of yourself are you willing to choose again? You don't need a wall. You just need one line that says, I matter. Because you do. You matter. Just take a deep breath. Take that deep breath and make it reach your belly. It reminds your nervous system that you're safe. And you take that deep breath in all the way to your belly. And then release. Relaxes that nervous system. Place your hand on your heart and ask yourself, without judgment, Where have I been abandoning myself? Where have I been saying yes out of guilt instead of truth? Where have I kept the peace externally, but caused a war inside my own story? Take a deep breath, all the way down to your belly. Let whatever rise, rise. There is no shame here. This is about awareness, clarity. It's about coming home. Now gently ask yourself, what do I value most? Peace, rest, freedom, honesty, sovereignty. Let your body answer. It's time to start listening to your body. So then, what boundary would protect that value? I don't explain myself anymore. I only say yes when my whole body agrees. I take up space when I need it. Even if it disappoints somebody else. Let one truth come forward. Speak it out loud. Speak it out loud now. If you can, loud. If not, whisper. Again, if not, write it down. Writing it down is just powerful. So as we close up today, remember, boundaries are not rejection. You are not rejecting somebody by setting a boundary. Boundaries are recognition. Recognition that you are sacred, that your energy matters, that your presence is not an obligation. Your presence is not an obligation. It is a gift. Don't forget that. You are allowed to be soft and strong. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to say not this time. You're allowed to say not anymore. Not anymore. Actually, I have a thing. I don't know if that's gonna come out, but I've got it. Anyway, this tattoo says not today. It's from the Game of Thrones. You are allowed to take up space in your own life. And you don't have to build walls to do it. You just need one brave moment of truth. Actually, one brave moment of truth after another. After another. So take that moment now, root in it, and let it lead you home. I'm gonna leave you with that. That was a lot. That was good. Boundaries it's got a special place. I'm also still working on the boundaries. So tomorrow, we're gonna talk about triggers. And I mean, that's a really good one too. Triggers holding our boundaries and values and everything through emotional triggers. So it's going to be good. It's going to be powerful. And don't forget about your homework. It's going to be somewhere around the video. I'm not quite sure where. And we'll see you tomorrow, or we'll see you at the next video, hopefully tomorrow. All right. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for being a part of this, being a part of the resolution. And I'm so grateful for all of you guys. And I'll see you tomorrow.